यो नित्यमच्युतपदाम्बुजयुग्मरुक्मव्यामोहतस्तदितराणि तृणाय मेने अस्मद्गुरोर्भगवतोऽस्य दयैकसिन्धोः रामानुजस्य चरणौ शरणं प्रपद्ये. First of all, I would like to pay my respects and Sashtanga pranams to all the elderly persons and great scholars who are assembled in this august assembly, especially Shri U.V. Karunakaracharya Swami and the chairperson, a renowned scholar, and also Dr. Kannan and all the other persons whom I may not know individually by name. Just now we have been listening to a very scholarly presentation about the Prameyamala of Swami Sri Nadadu Rammal. In Sanskrit they use a word while describing the Shastraic works like Prameyamala, Tattvasara, about which I am going to say a few words, etc. They call it as Yukti Jala Jatila. Many a times it may go above the head of persons who are well informed also, but who are not very much grounded in the Shastra tradition. They have to know Sanskrit language, they have to know Nyaya Shastra, they have to know Vyakarana Shastra and Mimamsa Shastra, all the what are known as the Samanya Shastras. And also they have to have good knowledge of how the debates take place in the field of the Shastras. So unless they have a very good knowledge of all these things, many a times they think, why are they taking so much of pains to actually prove something? Like people may think that whether Veda exists or not, why should they devote so much of time and efforts to a small aspect like this? But we have to time travel nearly 1,000 years back and see what was the context in which they were actually mentioning all these things. And also many a times people ask, why are you scholars actually, that I don't know whether I should be using that word or not, quarreling among yourselves whether Bheda is correct or Abheda is correct, Advaita is correct or Vishishtadvaita or Dvaita is correct. Why does it really matter in our lives? So the answer to this question has to be given in a very elaborate manner. But one thing is for sure, that all the Vedantas, whether it is Advaita, Advaita or Vishishtadvaita, they have a single aim, and all the Vedantas are based on the Upanishads, which themselves are known as the Vedanta, and also they have many things in common also. However, when it comes to what is known as sadhana or upasana, then these questions will become very much relevant as to whether the Jivatma and Paramatma are one and the same, or are they different from each other, or are they both different and one. So these are the different questions that need to be answered at that level. And therefore, when we take this context into mind, then we have to see, we understand or realize that this is very, very much necessary. Another aspect which you have to note is that the debate as to whether the Jivatma and Paramatma are one and the same or are they different is a very subtle question. Many a times, my revered Acharya, Shri U.V. Kottamangalam Vardacharya Swami, he keeps telling us, none of us have had the exact experience of the pure Jivatma or the pure Paramatma. Therefore, this question persists as to whether the Jivatma and Paramatma are one and the same. Nobody debates whether this mic and this paper are one and the same, because we are able to very clearly see both of them. But since both the Jivatma and Paramatma are extremely subtle things which we cannot cognize by the ordinary mind or the sense organs, we have this debate which is prevalent very much in the Vedic texts also. So with these minor observations, one more point has to be understood here, It is called as Nahi Ninda Nyaya in Sanskrit. It is mentioned as Nahi Ninda Nindyam Ninditum Pravartam Apitu Nindyate Itaram Prashamsitum Itihi Santas Sangirante. This is the words of a great Acharya. So many a times when we say that this is refuted or this is incorrect, we should not think that it is totally incorrect or totally unacceptable. Many a times the word Khandana itself is given as follows. Many a times Khandana means we say refuted or it is done away with, etc. But a great Acharya has given a very good exposition of the word Khandana itself, where he says the word Khandana has come from the word Khanda. Khanda means a portion. So Khandanam means what? He has very beautifully mentioned it as Khandanam Nama Apurnatva Jnapanam. So when we say that one Acharya refuted the other, it doesn't mean that he has some personal animosity towards that Acharya. It means that he has shown that what you have understood is not complete. You have to add some more to your view, and your view is incomplete. So the very good example given is when a group of blind persons touched an elephant and said, one person said only this is the elephant, another person touched its tail and said this is the elephant, and another person touched another portion and said this is only the elephant. It's not like that. So Khandanam means Apurnatva Jnapanam. That means your view is not comprehensive. So you make it more comprehensive. So many a times when we compare Shankaracharya and Ramanujacharya, we say that Shankaracharya mentioned of Nirvishesha Advaita due to certain situations that prevailed in those days, whereas Ramanujacharya made it complete by mentioning it is Savishesha Advaita. So when we have to have a convergent view, these are very, very important. But in those days, when the question of sadhana was very important, nowadays people are not worried about anything. We are all totally materialists. So we don't worry whether this is right or that is right. Whichever is right, let us not worry. We will just take care of our day-to-day activities and get on with it. We'll just move on in life. That's what we say. Similarly, in this case, in those days, it was a very burning question. And therefore, these things have been dealt with in a very, sometimes vehement manner also. So in this case, I am going to present a few points from the Tattvasara of Nadadu Rammal, a great work of polemics, where he has delved very deep, just as already mentioned by Sri Vishnuchittan Swami. He is a great scholar, and I am not such a great scholar, so I am trying to give a more general view about what it is. I also request the chair to kindly let me know 5 minutes before so that I can conclude at the earliest when the time is up. So here we see that the Samanadhikaranya Vichara is one of the very important bones of contention as far as the Advaita Siddhanta and Vishishtadvaita Siddhanta are concerned. So what is Samanadhikaranya? So I will give a very simple example. We say this is a red rose. So the rose means it is a flower, and we say red, which means it is actually denoting a characteristic of the rose. So here the word red means that which possesses red color. So in Sanskrit we say Raktam Pushpam, that means Raktavarna Vishishtam Pushpam. So here the meaning of the word red or Raktam is that which possesses red color, whereas the meaning of the word Pushpam is a flower. So we say, according to Nyaya Shastra, we say Pushpatvashraya, that which possesses flowerness. So here these two words in different contexts, they have different meanings. So if I just say red, that means which has red color. If I say pushpam, that means which is pushpam. But in this case, in the sentence raktam pushpam, both of them denote a single object, namely the red rose. So this is, we say that these two words have samanadhikaranya. So for those who are well versed in Sanskrit, they can easily understand they are in the same linga, that is napumsaka linga. They are in the same number ekavachana. They are in the same vibhakti, that is prathama vibhakti or nominative case. So these two words, which have different meanings in different contexts, have come together to denote one single object. This is the meaning of the word samanadhikaranya. So in Sanskrit it is mentioned as bhinna pravritti nimittanam shabdanam ekasmin arthe vrittihi samanadhikaranyam. So the samanadhikaranya concept is universal to all the Shastras. But when it comes to the interpretation of a Shruti Vakya, namely Tattvamasi, so where does the Vakya Tattvamasi come? It comes in the Chandogya Upanishad. The story is very, very interesting, but I don't have time to narrate the story. So there was in very few words I will try to narrate the story. There was a very intelligent but little bit egoistic student called Shvetaketu. He went to, by his father he was sent to the Gurukula after the Upanayana, etc. And after studying all the Vedas for about 16 years, he returned back to his father. But when he returned back, there was a sort of what is known as stabdhata. He was not easygoing. He thought that he knew everything in this world. So many a times what happens when people think they know everything, they know nothing actually. So then his father asked him, Stabdhosi, you seem to be not very easygoing. You seem to be very rigid in your body language, in your approach, etc. So then he asked him, Utatam adesham aprakshya yena ashrutam shrutam bhavati amatam matam avijñātam vijñātam. Did your guru tell you about a certain entity? So by knowing that entity, you will know everything in this world. By thinking about that entity, you can think about it. It is as good as you have thought about everything in this world. So, and by listening to that entity, it is as good as you have listened to everything in this world. Has your guru told you that? So this Shvetaketu was like today's students. He told, my guru himself would not have known, that is why he has not told. Then the father of Shvetaketu takes pity on his son and he says, no, I will tell you. Then he says, Yatha saumya ekena mritpindena sarvam mrinmayam vijñātam syāti vācārambhanam vikāro namadheyam mrittiketyeva satyam sa atma tattvamasi Shvetaketu. So the explanation for this is very long. I will just cut short and tell this. Tatitvam asi. So you are that. So you are the Supreme Brahman, is what is the literal meaning of this. So here the explanation given by Advaita is as follows. You means kinchit jnatva vachinnam chaitam. You means consciousness. So consciousness which is limited by kinchit jnatva. So the Atma of Shvetaketu is also made of consciousness, or it is consciousness itself, but that which consists of kinchit jnatva. He knows very little. Whereas the Supreme Lord is also consciousness personified, but it is sarvajñatva vachinna. So how can the consciousness which is encompassed by sarvajñatva or omnipotence, omniscience, etc., become one with the consciousness that is encompassed by kinchit jnatva? So Sarvajñatva Vishishta consciousness cannot be equal to Kinchitñatva Vishishta consciousness, if we mention it in a mathematical language. Therefore, what has to be done? You give up the Sarvajñatva here. On the other side of the equation, you give up the Kinchitñatva. Then consciousness equals consciousness. So, akhande ekasminnarthe samanadhikaranyam, akhandartha samanadhikaranyam. Then the statement tat tvamasi, you are that Brahman, will become correct. Very beautiful exposition, there is no doubt about it. But here, what happens? The inconsistency pointed out by the Vishishtadvaitins is as follows. It has so many connotations because we have to understand the concept of Shakti, we have to understand the concept of Lakshana. Lakshana, that is the literal meaning and implied meaning. And within the literal meaning also and within the implied meaning also, how many types are there? So within the implied meaning we say Jahal Lakshana, Ajahal Lakshana. Only two types are accepted in Nyaya Shastra also. But in the Advaita Siddhanta, a new type of Lakshana or implied meaning is introduced called Jahada Jahal Lakshana, which is not accepted in Nyaya Shastra also. So here what Vishishtadvaita Siddhanta says, giving up means what? How can you give up Sarvajñatva or how can you give up Kinchitñatva? Who has to give up, how it is to be given up, etc. And also, if two things are totally synonymous, they will not be mentioned together. Nobody will say Kalasham Ghatam Manaya. He will say either Kalashamanaya or Ghatamana. Therefore, there has to be some difference between the two meanings, etc., etc. And all the inconsistencies that are mentioned there in this theory is actually shown and mentioned that in the Vishishtadvaita Siddhanta it is mentioned as Tvam Tadatmakaha Asi. So it involves a huge amount of background knowledge to appreciate both the Advaita view as well as Vishishtadvaita. So I have just touched upon it. So Swami Nadadu Rammal gives a very beautiful exposition in his Tattvasara. So this work is called Tattvasara because it is actually the essence of the Tattva of Vishishtadvaita or Tattva of Vedanta in general. Therefore it is known as Tattvasara. It is in the form of extremely difficult to understand poetry. In no other language or no other philosophy is written in poetry. Whereas only in our Indian systems of philosophy we have seen that philosophy is being written through the medium of poetry. This is another important aspect. So in the Tattvasara he very beautifully summarizes the arguments of the Advaitins and also the counters provided by the Vishishtadvaitins. In the present case, in the 52nd shloka, he has dealt with beautifully about the Samanadhikaranya. Samanadhikaranya bhagishu padastomeshu sarveshu kim pratyayam vyatirichyate pratipadam vaktavyam advaitina yadvaneti nacher anarthakataya nekatiriktam padam Pathyeta prativadinastvitaratha yuktisvamasidati. So he asks whether the two words where Samanadhikaranya are there, do they have a single meaning or do they have a different meaning? If they have a same meaning, why should they be actually mentioned side by side? Nobody will say two words which are having the same meaning side by side. Of course, in day-to-day language we see that some people who do not have proper knowledge, they will do like that. But knowledgeable persons will not do that. And then if they have totally different meanings, then how do they actually come together and mean something which is akhandartha? Then akhandartha cannot apply. So these are the certain inconsistencies that are prevalent in the theory of Akhandartha Samanadhikaranya mentioned in Advaita Siddhanta. As I mentioned, so one should not think that this has been refuted. So it is totally incorrect. In that sense, it is not being mentioned. So it is being mentioned as I said, Khandanam means Apurnatva Jnana. There is only a partial view and not the full view. So further also, he uses the concept of Samanadhikaranya to interpret one very important Shruti Vakya or Upanishad Vakya, namely the Kapyasa Shruti, which is how much time?
Under 10 minutes.
So Kapyasa Shruti. So I will not be dealing it since a highly learned and very senior scholar to me, like Shruve Karunakaracharya Swami, is going to mention about that. So I will just, and also it is actually Shri Uve Karunakaracharya Swami who is blessing us by his very presence, that he is the authorized person to give the views of Nadadu Rammal because he belongs to that lineage only. So all we are doing is only helping him in or assisting him in providing those views. So I will just mention the background and complete it. So it is mentioned that Ramanujacharya was studying under a guru called Yadava Prakasha, who was a very great scholar. He also is one of the authors of a separate Vedanta Paksha, because Ramanujacharya himself mentions about the Yadava Mata in the Vedartha Sangraha, when he actually gives the Mangala Shloka. So there, Ramanujacharya was the closest disciple of Yadava Prakasha. Though Yadava Prakasha belonged to the Advaita school, and Ramanujacharya was yet to establish the Vishishtadvaita school, which already existed, he was actually very close to his guru. And when his guru was actually teaching, he would ask Ramanujacharya to apply oil to his back and also massage him. So in the Chandogya Upanishad, in the first Prapataka itself, the extolling of the divine eyes of the Supreme Lord are given, where it is mentioned as Tasya yatha kapyasam pundarikam eva makshini. So the eyes of the Supreme Lord, they resemble the kapyasa. So pundarika means lotus, which is known to everybody. But there is one word which actually precedes the word pundarika, which is kapyasam. So tasya akshini yatha kapyasam pundarikam. That is how we do the anvaya. So the eyes of the Supreme Lord resemble the lotus, which is red in color. So here Yadava Prakasha actually mentioned kapyasam means the kapehe asaha kapyasaha. So it mentions that the eyes of the Supreme Lord actually resemble the back portion of a monkey. So Ramanuja was inherently a great devotee of the Lord. And as soon as he heard this explanation, hot tears started to fall from his eyes. So tears come when we are both happy as well as when we are sad. So when we are sad, it is hot tears, and when we are happy, it is tears which are very cool, which relieve us actually of our burden. So when the hot tears fell on the back of Yadava Prakasha, immediately he looked back and saw that Ramanuja was crying. He is weeping uncontrollably. Immediately he summoned Ramanuja and said, "Why are you weeping? What is the problem?" Then he said, "Sir, the Vedas are the essence of the Supreme Brahman. How can the Vedas mention that the divine eyes of the Supreme Lord are like the back portion of a monkey? Isn't it against the spirit of the Vedas?" Then Yadava Prakasha immediately said, "This is the meaning given by our forefathers. If it is not acceptable to you, you don't accept it, I don't care. Then immediately he asked Ramanuja, then how else would you interpret it? That will be mentioned in a very beautiful manner by Srila Karunakaracharya Swami. I will not transgress my limits because that is going to be mentioned there. So, like this Samanadhikaranya concept has been extensively used in explaining the Kapyasa Pundarika Shruti also by Swami Nadadu Rammal in another context in this work itself. Of course, I will not touch upon that. Like this, we see that this Tattvasara, to explain the entire meaning or entire greatness of the work, Tattvasara will require many, many months. So it has to be done by the Kalakshepa Krama as is prevalent in the Sri Vaishnava tradition. So with these words, I don't know whether I have actually done justice to the topic or not, and I don't know whether I have been able to convey the concepts in a manner that could be understood by the learned audience here. I thank the authorities of Sri Vishnu Mohan Foundation for inviting me here and giving me a small opportunity to say a few words about this very complicated topic. Though, as far as my education and other backgrounds are concerned, I may not be up to the mark to do that. I convey my pranams to my revered father, Sri U.A. Professor Lakshmi Tatacharya Swami, and the great scholars who are assembled here, like Professor Karunakaracharya Swami, and also the chairperson, himself a great scholar in many Shastras and also a professor of Sanskrit in the Vivekananda College, and all others for their patient hearing. Thank you very much. Mangalashasanaparair madacharya purogamaihi sarvaischa purvairacharyai satkritaayastu mangalam. I also apologize since we have to leave for another function. So I seek the permission of the chair and also the other persons and also Professor Kannan, because we have to attend a marriage function within 1 o'clock where we have to be present there. So I request the authorities to kindly give us permission to leave the venue after a few minutes after Professor Kannan begins his talk. Thank you very much.